Alright. So ito po tayo, no? Very short lang naman kasi to, no? Yung PEG ratio. Good afternoon sa inyo. Ilan lang tayo dito. No? I was hoping there would be more. But anyway, I know that you will have your academic break, no? As far as I know. So I think this will be, tama ba? This will be the last. Meron pa pala tomorrow, right? Again, it's a very short activity. So this is part again of the modules on Power of Two, which is the fifth module. It's called the PEG ratio in PEG. Actually, yung PEG ratio, you can see it sa mga Bloomberg, no? If you will notice, ando dun yung PEG. So, again, as I said, this is very short lang, no? So, ano yung mga three price indicators most often used by value investors? So there is the price earnings ratio, the price sales, and then the price book. Yan ang tatlo na pinaka-famous. As I've said in the past, sa dati nating module, ang unang tinitingnan natin dyan is the price earnings. Yan ang nagsasabi whether your investment is pricey or not, or yan ba ay mahal o hindi, no? Yung price earning. So the lower it is, the better. Lahat naman yan, the lower the better. So first mong filter will be the price earnings, the lower the better. So ang gusto natin dito is lower than the market. So if the market is, pag sinabing market, ito yung sa akin, no? This is the composite index, no? Which is the PSEI in our case. So kung ikaw ay nasa Japan, edi yan yung Nikkei. Pag ikaw ay nasa England, ito yung FTSE 100 FTSE. Kung ikaw ay nasa US, edi yung Dow Jones Industrial Average, no? So kunin mo yung lahat ng price earnings noon. And usually naman they have data for that, no? Lalo pag nasa Bloomberg ka. If you go to Bloomberg, tingnan mo yung bawat markets, tingnan mo yung price earnings. They have for the market, no? Meron silang average. So I think for us, check ko nga ngayon, no? Para makita natin kung ano ba ang price earnings multiple ngayon ng ating market, no? So habang tinitingnan ko, yun. So ang price earnings will be the first metric, first filter. And then you can go to price to sales para malaman mo lang naman whether hindi siya masyadong mataas, no? So again, walang ano to talaga eh. Wala talaga siyang yung parang standard yung price to sales. Ang mahalaga lang sa kanya, kailangan lang wag siyang masyadong mataas. Yun lang yun. O hindi nagiging negative yan, price to sales. Kasi parehong positive yan. Wala namang sales na negative, no? So, teka, balikan na natin tong yung ating market, PSEI Asia, PSEI. So it will be 7,252 na ngayon yung ating market, no? Ang kanyang price to earnings ratio is 25. O yan nakalagay dito, 25. Kung makikita ninyo eh. Basta ito yung tinitingnan ko. Hindi ko alam kung makikita nyo. Hindi ko alam kung malinaw. But anyway, yun, 25 times ang kanyang price earnings ratio according to this, no? Current. So therefore, you can say, no, na if your stock is lower than 25 times price earnings, then it is relatively inexpensive or relatively cheaper than the market. So, syempre, the cheaper, the better. Yan ang ibig sabihin nun, no? And then, as I said, ang price to sales can be just another filter para lang malaman mo whether may sales na back up, no? Kasi if you have a higher price to sales, ang ibig sabihin yan, yung presyo mo ay masyadong mataas versus the corresponding sales. Wala naman palang sales. Lalo na kung pinag-uusapan natin yung katulad ng Enron before, no? Na wala namang sales. And yet, ang taas ng price. So, kung nagtingin sila sa price to sales, di sana nakita nila na may problem, no? So, importante ang price to sales. But not to compare stocks with each other. So, hindi dapat mo kino-compare yung dalawang stocks, no, with respect to price to sales. It's just a filter on its own, no? So, price earnings, pwede siguro, no? Per industry, no? Ang price to sales, just kumbaga pag titingnan mo yan, parang okay, sandali lang. Okay, yung pala price to sales niya, for example. No? Ganun lang. Ngayon, yung price to book, usually, we look at price to book para lang makita natin yung mga companies or mga stocks, no, na issues, stocks, issues means stocks, no, na masyadong mababa yung price to book. So ito yung mga tinatawag ko ng mga screaming buy, yung mga naka-fire sale, kumbaga. So if your price to book is near or even lower than 1, no? Near to 1 meaning 1.1, 1.2, o kaya even lower than 1. Ayan ang mga talagang dapat nyong tingnan. Sabi niyo, what is wrong with this company? Bakit ang baba ng price to book? So for example, in PSEI, tingnan natin kung mayroong ganun, no? So syempre, hindi mo naman 'to makikita agad, no? Talagang magse-search ka, no? For example, I think LT Group, which is the Lusutan Group, ang PE ratio niya 7 lang, no? 7 lang ang PE ratio niya, pero ibig sabihin, mababa siya, no, versus the market of 25. Ang key stats niya, tinawag key stats niya. Again, lahat 'to tinitingnan ko sa ano lang, Bloomberg. PE ratio niya 7, it's just 30% of the PSEI, yung PE. Tapos, mamaya makikita yung book. Ang price to book niya, 0.62. Oh, imagine, Lusutan Group, no? If you're Lusutan, will you sell your company? Of course not. Ang price to sales niya, 1.21 lang. Di ba? So, medyo may ano to, no? Fundamentally, baka isipin mo, oh, maganda to Bakit ganun? Why are they dumping this Lusutan? What's wrong with this stock? Di ba? So, investigate mo yun para malaman mo kung okay ba o hindi talaga. Okay? So, ano ngayon yung PEG? Ang topic natin ngayon, PEG, PEG. Ang PEG is just an indicator proposed by Peter Lynch. Si Peter Lynch, maraming librong ginawa, no? One Up on Wall Street, ganyan yan ang mga ano ni Peter Lynch. No? He's a fundamental investor or a value investor. Ang ginagawa niya, dinidivide niya yung price earnings by the growth rate. So, ba't niya ginagawa yun? Kasi minsan daw, sabi ni Peter Lynch, no? Siyempre, hindi naman siya nagtatagalog, no? Siyempre, English. Sometimes, sometimes, sabi ni Peter Lynch, you have a high price earnings because you have high growth. Diba? So, PE over growth. Oh, yan. And may problema tayo dyan actually sa growth, no? Kung anong gagamitin mo. But anyway, bakit daw siya important? Because sabi niya, no, some companies trade at high PE ratios because they deserve it. Yung iba naman, mababa ang PE ratio because they deserve it. Okay? Halimbawa, example, when Facebook, ito lagi ko example, sorry when Facebook first had an IPO, ang kanyang price earnings noon ay 100 times. So imagine, 20 times lang ang market, 25. Siya 100 times PE. Now ang tanong, do they deserve it? Of course, ang price, ang income ni Facebook before was not that high. In fact, they did not have a lot of income back then when they were just starting yung IPO. So anyway, natatandaan ko pa niyan when I first presented sa ibang bansa, no? And my presentation was about fundamental indicators in value investing. I remember there was, one guy from the crowd who asked me this question. Kasi ito yung time na nag-IPO. Akala ko anong tatanungin niya eh. Because I spoke about, I reported about ano yung mga predictors ng success ng investing in stocks, no? Ang lumabas sa akin doon ay price earnings and price to book. Wait lang guys. Thank you. Ayun. Ang lumabas sa akin doon yung price earnings at saka price to book. Oo, saka yung isa pa Hindi ko mineasure ang debt to equity but price earnings, price book, not even price sales. Yeah, I think those two are the ones. Kasi ano ko yun thesis ko yun sa master's ko before. Now, syempre wala nagtatanong kasi it's technical masyado, no? And wala namang masyado into finance na nanonood. Puro mga psychology majors. Ganyan. There was this one guy, American pa naman yun, na researcher. He taas ng kamay. So sabi, patay. Paano tatanungin ito? So when I called him, yes sir. And he asked, So my question is, should I buy Facebook? So I was hindi naman ako nagulat because I'm following the news, no. So nakita ko na 100 times ang price earnings ni Facebook. At si Warren Buffett issued already a statement saying the same thing as I said, no. Sabi ko 100 times per earnings on Facebook, that is too much. In fact, talaga nangyari, ganun din, no? I think they interviewed also Warren Buffett, and Warren Buffett also said the same thing. If I know what will happen to Facebook 10 years from now, he said, and I know exactly with a certain degree of certainty that I know this is what will happen to Facebook, then I will buy Facebook. But I don't know what Facebook will be and how it will be, after 10 years. So I won't buy. Maybe if you will lower the price by half, I will consider. Why? Sabi ko, because the growth of ito yung time na nag-grow ang Facebook ng almost 50% a year in terms of the subscriber rate, no? Yung users of Facebook. Ngayon, siyempre sabi niya, but there's no real income. Sabi ko no? Sabi ng time na yan. But I said, it is easy to have an advertisement. During time na yun kasi wala pang advertisement si Facebook. If you have the base and you have more than 500 million na nun eh. Wala pang billion. But if you have like a billion users of Facebook, then it would be so easy for it to earn money by advertising, if they have the numbers. So tamang-tama lahat na sinabi ko. I think the Facebook was at a limbo during the beginning kasi ang tagal niya, ng 38, but ngayon I think sobrang taas na ni Facebook. So eventually, you would realize that they really deserve it. Another company, no? I think another company that certainly has high price earnings before was Apple Computer, because Apple was increasing its sales and bottom line by a whopping 67% a year for the last 10 years nung bago lumabas yung, I think, iPhone 10 or something. Ganun, parang ganun. iPhone 10. iPhone X, ganyan. So anyway, so I was looking at that and said, of course, if you will ask Warren Buffett, if he was here, you ask him, he will say, 67%, are you saying that it will still grow 67% a year in the next 10 years? Of course not. Diba? Because that would mean, compute. That would mean it would already defeat, no, or move past certain countries' GDP. Ibig sabihin, pag daw tumaas pa ng ganun kataas in the next 10 years, that means you are saying Apple Computer will be like a country. Sobrang laki ng sales, talo pa yung mga countries, no? Of course, hindi naman mangyayari yun. So, ang tawag dyan, the law of diminishing returns. So, huwag kang masyadong ideal about it. So, but totoo naman. Kaya nga, ang sabi ni Peter Lynch, the way to go about it is to insert the growth rate. Ayun. So, pag meron kayong growth rate, di mas magandang tingnan kasi makikita mo, okay, relatively speaking, it deserves that because mataas ang kanyang growth rate. Yun ang importante doon, no, guys. So, yan ang sinasabi natin dito. So, para lang malaman mo whether your company deserves the kind of price earnings that it has. So, kung malaki man yun, whatever, ang dapat mong tingnan ay ang tinatawag natin na price earnings growth. Ayan. So, yun yung ibig sabihin nun, no? So, kaya talagang kailangan meron yan, no? Merong price earnings growth, no? So, yan. So, as I said, kailangan yan eh, you deserve the price earnings, the high price earnings. Okay, but ganun parang late ang YouTube. Ayan yan, okay. Okay naman. Miss Belus, parang si Miss Belus lang ang nanonood sa atin. Anyway, okay lang yan, Miss Belus. Okay, so Jollibee in Ayalas, ang Jollibee guys at saka ang Ayalas, ang daming Ang taas lagi ng ano niyan, ang Jollibee ever since I started investing, ang taas lagi ng price earnings niyan. Laging nasa high 30s. Laging ang market nasa 16, nasa 17, nasa 20, minsan nasa 12 lang. Sila nasa 30 pa rin, Jollibee. Ang Ayala, meron time naman ang Ayala bumababa pero ang Jollibee consistent, ang taas, no? So pag titinan mo yung price earnings lang, baka hindi mo siya ibilhin. Pero since i-insert mo yung growth, yun, magkakaroon siya ng chance na mabili. Okay? So, yung kanilang growth rate compensate for their high PE. So, yun, no? So, anong sinasabi dito? Dinedetermine yan yung stock value while taking into account the earnings growth. So, dito ngayon merong konting consideration tayo dito mga bata, no? Sometimes kasi, ang website, ang tinitingnan nila sa earnings growth, di syempre EPS growth. Yun naman talaga ang tama. Pero what if ang EPS mo ay negative? Di ba? Sometimes, dumating ka sa isang taon na talagang sobrang baba. Anong gagawin mo? Alangan namang i-penalize mo yung lahat ng years na mataas siya dahil lang sa mababang rate. So, minsan ang ginagamit yan. Kaya dito nag-iiba-iba ang understanding ng market. Sometimes, ang tinitingnan nila dyan ay hindi yung bottom line, kundi ang revenue growth. Okay? Lalo na kung consistent naman ang profit margin. So, revenue ginagamit minsan, revenue growth. Minsan hindi naman talaga EPS growth. Minsan ang ginagamit ay yung sinasabi natin na cumulative returns, cumulative growth. Paano yung cumulative growth? Ano ibig sabihin nun, sir? Kasi di ba, simula ka with 1 million ang first year, 1,200,000 ang second year, 1,500,000 ang third year, 1,800,000 ang fourth year. Tapos pagdating ng fifth year, naging 3 million. 'Di ba? Titinan mo ba yung individual year o kukunin mo yung growth ng from the fifth year minus the first year divided by the first year and then kukunin mo yung fifth root, no? 1/5 tapos minus 1. Makikita mo kasi yun Kaya nga ang iba tinitingnan na lang nila diyan yung dalawang dulo na lang. Kaya nga iba-iba. Merong iba kinukuha yung average growth niya every year. Pero to what reason will you do that? Samantalang titingnan mo lang naman talaga yung last at saka beginning. Kaya nga sinasabi ko sa inyo na sometimes ang ginagawa ng mga value investors diyan, titingnan na lang niya yung first at saka yung fifth year at kailangan nagdoble. Pag nagdoble, more or less 16-17% yun a year of growth. And therefore, pwede kang magkaroon ng price earnings na 16 din. O at least 17, 18, 20, pwede. Basta't meron kang ROE. Yung iba pa, yung pa isa. Minsan ang ginagamit na substitute ay return on equity. Hindi net income, hindi growth ng revenue. Kaya iba-ibang website, iba-ibang PEG. Kaya depende sa atin kung anong gagamitin natin. So ngayon, tanongin nyo, sir, ikaw ang ginagamit mo. Kung natatamad kayo, ROE, dahil sa totoo lang, hindi naman talaga naman ito main thing Ang kailangan mo lang naman talaga ay price earnings. Ngayon, tinitingnan mo tong growth rate just to excuse the high price earnings. So ganito, mataas ang price earnings, bakit? Gusto kong bilhin Tingnan mo yung growth rate. Maganda ba yung growth rate? Pwede na. Sige, bilhin mo na rin yan kahit mataas ang price earnings kasi mataas naman pala ang growth. That's how you do it. Hindi yung hanap ka ng maliit na PEG tapos bibili mo kaagad, di ba? Kailangan nakatingin ka dun sa company first. Yun ang unang-unang filter. And then, kumikita ba yan? Nag-grow ba? Mababa ang presyo? So, yun. Ganun ang ano niyan. Ganun ang flow. Okay? So, ayan yun. Dito, annual EPS growth. Pero as I said, ginagamit minsan dyan ay ROE. So, ito yung disclaimer As I said, ito yung disclaimer. Patapos na to. Dulo-dulo na. Disclaimer. Ang growth in EPS is a brutal metric. Ano ibig sabihin ng brutal metric? Sobrang higpit niyan. Mahirap yan. Kasi ang growth in EPS simply says na year in and year out, nag-grow ang earnings per share. Minsan kasi nagagawa ng paraan yan. Kaya nga iba alam mo, ang tinitingnan nila ay sales, hindi EPS. Kasi sometimes, magbenta o i-declare as income. Di ba ang EPS mo lumalaki because of that magkakaroon ng machination ang EPS. Nagagawa ng magic ang EPS. Lalo may mga one-time na income. Ni window dress. Yun. Samantalang ang revenue, hindi. Kasi taxable yun eh. Lahat ng ini-issue mong revenue, merong resibo. Excuse me, di ba? Kaya talagang ano. Second, you will punish great companies that are recently slowing down and will only concentrate on aggressive companies. Totoo naman yan. Yung malalaking company, kasi susunod pa yun eh, yung mga galindang company na nagsuslow down, brutally matatanggal sila sa inyong sa inyong field kasi nga wala silang mataas na growth sa EPS, 'di ba? Magko-concentrate ka lang sa high growth. So kaya nga ito masyadong aggressive ang stance na 'to. Yung mga cash cow, yung mga companies na talagang alam mo na talaga namang kumikita ng malaki katulad ng PLDT. Hindi naman mag-grow ang PLDT ng beyond napakataas. Ang growth niyan sa sales, mga nasa 1%, 2%, I think, no? Ganun lang ang growth niyan. Hindi naman tataas na ng 20% yan because ang laki-laki na ng sales niyan, no? Kaya siyempre, ang cash cows, usually lower na ang growth rates niya due to their size. Kung familiar kayo doon sa tinatawag na Boston Consulting Group, no? Kung hindi pa, siguro one time pwede nating i-take up yun, BCG. Hindi lang kasi tayo nasa marketing eh, pero pwede rin namang analyze yun, yung tinatawag na Boston Consulting Group na analysis. So yung cash cow, malaking company, hindi usually yan nagkakaroon ng mataas na growth rate. Tapos, yung mga small companies, they grow as well. 'Di ba? And then they will suffer declines in revenue growth. Halimbawa, yung Apple and Microsoft, no? 1980s, ang ganda siyempre, no? Kasi ano pa eh, okay pa yung growth, no? Tapos eventually, nagkakaroon na ng saturation, o di ano mangyayari? Saka lumalaki na sila eh. Magpa-plateau na yon, 'di ba? Law of diminishing returns. So sa dulo, 'di ba? Hindi mo na pabibilhin 'yon dahil sa malaki na sila. Dapat nga doon mo sila kasi na-establish na nila 'yung sarili nila eh. So anyway, malalaman niyo 'yan pag inaral ninyo 'yung tinatawag na BCG, Boston Consulting Group ng mga analysis ng nasa portfolio ninyo. So 'yun ang mga disclaimer natin. This indicator should use more should be used more. Teka, ba't ganun? Teka lang Meron akong kulang dun eh. Should be used more for momentum investing. Ayan, atras ko lang para makita niyo. Should be used more for momentum investing. Ayan. Ang ibig sabihin nun, nagagamit mo siya for momentum investing. Yun ang problema, momentum investing. Ang momentum investing, buy high, sell higher. Yun ang nangyayari. Yung other people are doing that, no? Kasi gusto nila be rich quickly. Di ba? So, yun ang problem doon. Another disclaimer, yun ang sinabi ko na kanina, no? Walang agreement as to PEG. Different website, different PEG. Kasi nga, iba-ibang consider nila na growth rate. Gumagamit ng ROE, gumagamit ng EPS growth. Depende kasi. Depende, no? So, therefore, you have to calculate on your own. Or, treat it as a filter and move on. Ganun lang yun. Huwag mo na siyang pasyadong pakatsagaan na tingnan, no? Treat it as a filter, tapos you move. No? Ganun lang. Okay. Yun lang naman ang ating pag-uusapan ngayon. Pero gusto ko lang ngayon, no? Yung kanina nating company na tiningnan, no? Kanina, di ba? Sa Bloomberg, tingnan natin. Tingnan mo ang PEG ni LT Group. Estimated, mabuti pa si Bloomberg eh. Medyo humble. Estimated PEG ratio 0.3. Ako, nga pala, wala dito sa aking presentation kung ano dapat ang PEG, no? Ba't hindi ko sinabi? Ang nakalagay doon sa akin ay supposed to be, ang PEG mo should be 1.5. No? No, hindi ko sinabi dito. Dapat less than 1.5. Or siguro 2 pwede na, kahit pa paano. No? PEG of 2. So, yan. Mga ganun. Basta less than 2 siguro, 1.5, 175. Ako tinitingnan ko 1.5, no? Tapos ito, katulad nitong LT Group, ang PEG ratio niya 0.3, 'di ba? So ibig sabihin, mababa masyado ang PE niya sa kanyang growth. 'Yon. So again, ang titingnan niyo lang doon maigi is tama ba 'yun? Tama ba yung calculation ni Bloomberg? Talaga ba naggo-grow siya? 'Di ba? 'Yun na lang ang kukumpitin niyo diyan. Kasi kung magpapakawala kayo talaga ng malaking pera diyan, might as well checkin niyo talaga, no? O, tingnan ko yung mga favorite kong stocks. Mega World, sabi dito, ang Mega World, 3 pesos lang, PE ratio 10, tapos ang financials niya, key stats, no? Key stats, Key stats ni Mega World. Teka, ba't ganun? Ba't hindi ko makita? Okay. Mega World key stats. PEG, 0.4. Ito, ang baba din. So, Mega World is also a good buy. B-U-Y, buy. Hmm. Ang price to book niya, 0.55 lang. O, tandaan niya na sinabi ko, Mega World sa LTG ngayon. O, ngayong mga panahon na to. Which is, anong date na ba ngayon? October 26. So, yun, PEG ratio. So, yan po ang ating lesson for today. Yeah, I hope you learned something. Nandun sa Bloomberg lahat yun, ha? Tapos may mga ibang website naman like PSE. You can look for the PEG ratio of companies, certain companies, before you invest on it. Ayan. So, that's it. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat. Bye. Sorry. Outro.